quality of representation, she singles out women as victims of this misrepresentation. Some of the things that government has taken on overlap into some of our activities. For example, if you read the marriage systems that the religious people are advocating for, you'll find that a Muslim woman will not suffer any misrepresentation if she follows the Quranic and the Hadithic understanding of marriage and property and rights and all. It becomes, it overlaps, maybe I use a simpler word. There is an overlap when somebody wants to go to a secular court to sort out a matter that is deeply religious. Women in Islam are better off than using secular laws. That's why in our advocacy for the marriage law, we said, let the Muslims maintain their religious system. It serves better. It's been proven over years. The women are happy. Why would we want a Muslim woman to walk away from Sharia and go to a secular court to look for justice? She has a better deal. So, but now, the Christians do not have a marriage related to their faith. All the Christians in this country, Catholics, Anglicans, SDA, born agains, whatever, whichever, we don't. The advocacy for a Christian marriage is so that we can bring out those virtues and those good things that are in our religious setting that would help our people not complain and not be litigious with state legal machinery. That's the idea, basically. Do you know what is holding the marriage law today? One thing. The vote was passed. It is Honorable Kasaija who has not given us the money so that this thing is discussed, passed, and then freedom in marriages and freedom in terms of property and property rights for different people comes into effect. Even with the issue, I don't know, the sister is not there, so I don't need to mention it. But I was going to say that even for LGBTQ guys, they need to have if the law of marriage is passed, then they can talk to government. We're not the ones who are holding them. They're holding themselves by not passing any law. Thank you. Listening to all the wealth of wisdom that has been brought to the table, I am thinking of a modern society that has evolved out of a very ancient setting. You heard from the speech given by Mr. Mjisha how the religions got established in this country. He goes all the way to the 1800s. Now, if you look at that history, three things stand out. What was society like before religion showed up, especially Western religion? Then secondly, what was the contribution of religious settings in that time? And then lastly, I think, then you begin to challenge yourself and say, what can we say today? Let me go back to the history. When the Arabs came here, they came here for business. And as if by miracle or accident, they established the Muslim religion, 1860 some years. It is believed in history that the Muslims are the first foreign religion in this country. What do they come to do? Business. What influence do we have now? Business and religion. When you consider the explorers who turned out to be colonizers, what do they come to do? To them, in their own world, there was only two areas of concern, and where they saw influence, and I'm going to use the word influence very categorically here because it is what brought what they brought. They started with health and education. That's why you hear with the Catholics that the word reading is also synonymous with praying. Where has your daddy gone? Against the kusoma. And it meant reading, as in writing and reading, but it also meant going to pray, going to church. Even the priests are known to have read masses, Faza, Soma, Misa. Now, the reason I'm bringing this is because eventually, or maybe by the time they left, the colonizers and all, they only thought about three major mountains: education, governance, and health. Health became so big, it turned out to become a service. It became a service. And so, on the issue of influence, religion stayed up there and education stayed up there. In our current, and I need to close now, in our current situation, the world has come to now conceptualize 7 areas of influence, which are totally essential. You cannot ignore them. You can't walk away from them. So apart from education and governance, you now have religion. Religion is a mountain of its own. If you're not part of any religion in any society, you are a dead man. There is a revival of the traditional healing thing in this country. They came with healing. They started out with okusaula, abasau. They've now come back out and they've turned it into a religious affair. They are now marrying their own. They are baptizing and naming their own. They're conducting their own funerals. So religion, traditional religion, is back. Meaning that religion is a necessity you can never get rid of. Now, there were times in Uganda when certain religions were not allowed to operate. And Simon, Peter, and I were victims of that. But that is now foregone. We are into another dispensation. There's no way you can undo us. We are undoable now because we found out that was a mountain. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there are things now government can never ignore anymore. 1, religion. 2, the issue of family. Family has now gone back to be the most important area of concern for any government. If you don't take care of the family, you lose society automatically. And that's why at Interreligious Council, we are now pushing, even for a very special day or time or a season where family can be recognized. In June this year, we are thinking of setting up something very new to Uganda, a family festival where we will all celebrate family. If somebody has got 1 wife, 10 children, 4 wives and no children, whatever kind of arrangement, everything in that family, everything in that setting should be of very, very big concern for us. We want to make sure that a family is where religion starts. A family is where business, enterprises and all start. You start it home before you bring it out to the forefront. The 4th one I want to mention is media. There's no way you're going to ignore media anymore. It's been called the 4th estate. In other words, it has bought itself a position. You have legislature here, you have the judiciary there, you have, what else? The executive, yes. Now you have a fourth leg, a fourth estate called media. Media is totally undoable now. We used to have media controlled by state, but we moved away from that. And media became a public thing. Right now, electronic media, which is radio and television and all, print media, newspapers, magazines and all, plus social media. In fact, social media is slowly eating into the other and taking over. Many of you now know what has happened in any place of the world, in any area of the world. Right now, you have information for Europe, for America, for the Pacific, whichever area. You have information now that the newspapers will bring on tomorrow. So, and the electronic media may bring it in the evening, later, but you're already informed. So we are all trending a certain way, meaning we are now controlled by social media. You can't walk away with media, from media. The fifth one, maybe number six, arts and entertainment. We are listening to the theater much, much more than we are listening to Parliament, unless Parliament decides to become a theater of some kind. But if they don't do anything that amuses us and excites us, they will have their mention tomorrow. Or we will leave that information to the ones that must have it, government. But we want something that is entertaining, that is in the art, that is in the culture, something that takes us away from what is normal. And then finally, I talked about this mountain called business. Business. There are many businesses who do not desire to become presidents or prime ministers in this country. And they have so much money, they can lend to this country and survive. Think about education, finally. Why would a chancellor of a university want to go to Entebbe State House? They have the best brain at their command. When we all went to universities many years ago, we looked to those instructors and lecturers and teachers, and they used to be demigods of sorts, because what you wanted is what they had. All our history teachers and our science teachers and all of that, when they stood before us, we saw life in them. The desire to pump them go further is very high, but they do not wish to take on what they now call those loose jobs. They think politics is just loose. That's why lecturers at high universities are content to be where they are. They don't care whether they are mentioned or not. They control the best brains. And we fight to get our children to pass exams so that we put them in the hands of people who tell them what to do. I've said so much. So I'm asking government to consider these areas and not do this job alone. Government on its own will fail, definitely. But if you invite all those that are in charge of religion, in charge of arts and entertainment, in charge of family affairs, in charge of media, in charge of business, this country will run wholesome together, and the end is very clear. We win.
What I can add is possibly that if we are to build an inclusive and developed society,
partnership and see how we can make greater contribution to that to the 20 programs of government, but to start with the community mobilization and mindset change program, which religious institutions do very well on a daily. Equal Opportunities Commission is also a key player in that, and we can formalize our partnership and define parameters how we work together. But there are several other things that we do, which you also do. In our legal services and investigations department, for instance, one of the things that we do there is alternative dispute resolution, to make sure that there is harmony in society, there is amicable living, which, in my view, religious institutions do. People in homes bring their issues to our religious leaders, which, because we are using different words, but in the religious setting, you, our leaders on that side, have more increasingly used that to say you are counseling. If I'm right, on our side we call that alternative dispute resolution, in the sense where they have brought conflict, not counseling for other purposes, which may include how do I get richer and so on. But if they have brought conflict, you are counseling. We are doing alternative dispute resolution. How do we strengthen that function together? We could work together strongly on issues of research on these matters that we are talking about, so that we inform government better on how we realize the Vision 2040. I could go on and on and on until the cow will turn.